No, this is good. Thanks. Nothing screams good intentions like holding your own newborn child in your arms, right? When you hold that thing, you're going to say, I'm going to do it all right. I'm going to do everything. I'm not going to cut corners. This is going to be awesome, right? And then you realize that that was an unrealistic expectation going through your head, right? And it happens in some minor ways, some compromises you make, and it happens in some things you learn along the way. And I've been thinking about that, and I think, compromises. I remember when my son was a toddler, and toys started being left all over the place, and I'd first try and clean up as he played, right, which was not a very smart idea. So eventually I said, at the end of the night when he's in bed, I'll clean up every night, and I'll just put it away then. And then I got to the point of saying, at the end of the night, I'll clean a trail in case there's a fire in the house. We can get out without tripping over anything. And then it got to the point of saying, you know what, if there's a fire, it's all right. I don't really care anymore, right? Just leave it there. And that was all right. But I was thinking about the other stuff, the stuff we learn along the way. And I was thinking about this one concept that happened with both my children at different points. And I'll start with my son, right? At some point, we were standing outside his classroom at school, and each kid had a picture on the wall, something they had drawn. And all honesty be told, my son's was probably the worst one up there, right? But you don't say that to your kid because you want your kid to feel good about themselves and this is who they are and self-esteem is important. I said, wow, that's really good. And my son looked at me. I don't know how old he would have been at the time, but he looked at me just like with this crazy look on his face, and he went, Dad, no, it's not. And I realized that I had to shift my gears at this point, right? For so long, I'd been building up his self-esteem, his image, but he knew what his image was, and he knew his artwork was not. And I knew that I'd be compromising the things I really wanted to compliment if I just pretended all along that everything he did was really good, right? So I had to learn that lesson from him, and I stopped trying to say things like, well, this is the best ashtray ever. I might just start smoking now, right? Things that really didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I knew with him, and it was actually a good moment with him because he did it in such a way like, come on, Dad, work with me on this one, right? That's not good. So with him, it was, and then at the same time, my daughter is 5.5 years younger. And I knew I was smart enough, like you don't just apply the same rule to her now too, right? You got to feel these things out as they go along. And my daughter, when she was 10 years old, asked to be in a community play in a local, because some of her friends were in it. And she was all excited about it. And it was the first year she was in it. And I don't know what was going on when the production itself happened, but I didn't even get to the first production, which sounds awful when I say it now. But the good news is they had videotaped the whole thing. And she came home very proud with a DVD one time and said, Dad, here it is, we can watch it together. And we sat down and we watched it together. She was sitting next to me on the couch. And dancing-wise, I'll just say it that way, and she gets her talent from me in this regard. She was the absolute worst dancer in that whole production, right? When they're clapping, her hands are going this way. When they're stomping, her feet are going. Everything is completely wrong. And I'm watching this with her sitting next to me, and I know this is one of those moments where when this thing ends, I have to make that decision whether I say what I really want to say or I say that thing that continues to build the self-esteem. And this is, I'm not sure where this one's going. And the video ends, and there's this little moment of silence, and all of a sudden she just chuckles, and she said, Dad, I'm really bad. So I knew, I took my cue from that. I'm a pretty smart guy, right? And I took my cue, and I said, Ty, you're the happiest kid out there. Look at that smile on your face. And she said, oh, I like it. She said, it's fun, but I'm really bad. And I said, well, you going to do it next year? She said, oh, yeah, I'm going to do it every year. I want to get better, but I'm really bad, right? And I'm thinking, this kid is awesome. It's so easy to manage to this, right? So the next year it gets a little tougher to manage to because my wife goes away to visit a friend somewhere, and she has to go to auditions. And I had nothing to do with auditions before, but I have to take her to auditions, and my wife's away for the weekend, and I'm thinking, all right, this could get bad because if this could be a high-pressure thing, and this might not go well. So I'm driving in the car, and I'm thinking, how's this going to play out, this whole thing? And I don't know if she sensed it in me or something like that, but while we're driving, she said, hey, Dad, you can't come into the audition. And I said, no, I know that. I'll just drop you off, and I'll pick you up when it's over. She said, no, you have to go and fill out a form, but you're not going to be there for the audition. I said, no, yeah, fine. I know how to fill out forms. I'll go and I'll do that, and I'll leave. And we pull into the parking lot at this place, and I turn off the engine. Windows are shut. It's wintertime. It's just her and I in the car, and she leaned forward and whispered, and this is what makes the story, I think, so cute. She didn't have to whisper, but she did. She was doing it for my sake. She said, Dad. I said, yeah. She said, I really hope I don't get a lead role. And at first I mean, this is awesome, but I figured I could have overplayed my hand on this one too, like, darling, you got nothing to worry about, right? So I had to be really careful in my response. And what I said, honey, just do your best. And I felt really good, and I felt like I passed that day's test. And then I bring her inside thinking forms, right? Name, address, email address. I can do all this. Age, I'll get that one right. And I'm filling out the form, and there's parents around me with their daughters all dressed up for their auditions and doing vocal exercises and stuff like that. And I don't know what's looking around. I get name and address and age and all that stuff right. And then it says, my daughter's standing right next to me, watch me fill this out. It said, your child's vocal range. I have no idea what this means whatsoever. She gets her, I don't have a vocal range, and she gets her musical talent from me. And I don't even know what the question means, and I'm looking at it puzzled, and I'm thinking, how do you write bad to worse without offending your daughter who's reading over your shoulder, right? And I'm just looking at it, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And then the woman next to me, baffled, says something like, oh, well, you're a B sharp 2. So I don't know what she says, but she says something that sounds really intelligent, and I don't know what to say about my own daughter. So I wrote 50 yards. And she thought that was kind of funny. She wouldn't have known any better answer than me, and she's like, you can leave now, Dad, which I did promptly. She did not get a lead role, you'll be happy to know, but she has been in that play every year, and every year she does get better, and every year I get a little bit better at figuring out where those lines are with my kids. Thank you.